For a long time, many people have believed one simple thing: when you die, that is the end. But what if an ancient book says the opposite? What if the righteous do not simply vanish after death, but their souls are kept safe in the hands of God, and in the end, they return to Him? That is the first mystery hidden inside the wisdom of Solomon. But this book is not only about death. It also leaves a chilling warning for our own time. When humanity has the internet to know almost everything AI, to create almost anything, and technology to control more than ever before, yet loses its moral compass sooner or later, mankind may end up destroying itself. And the greatest mystery lies in the image of the righteous man. A man hated for living uprightly, mocked for belonging to God, tested, condemned, and led to death. This has led many to ask, did the wisdom of Solomon quietly prophesy the coming of Jesus Christ centuries before he appeared? Tonight we will uncover the wisdom of Solomon, a book about death, wisdom, the righteous man, and truths many people have never heard in full. And make sure you stay until the end of the video, because after these mysteries are decoded, the rest of this video will be the complete audiobook of the wisdom of Solomon. Why is the Book of Wisdom, also known as the Wisdom of Solomon, called a forbidden book? If you search for the most debated books of the Bible among Catholics, Eastern Orthodox Christians, and Protestants, the Wisdom of Solomon, often called the Book of Wisdom, will certainly stand near the center of the discussion. This is not an ordinary text. It is a masterpiece of Jewish wisdom literature from the Hellenistic period. The book was written in Greek, appeared in the ancient Greek Bible, known as the Septuagint, and was read by early Christian believers as a document carrying profound spiritual weight. According to the United States Conference of Catholic Bishops, or USCCB, this work was written about 50 years before the birth of Jesus Christ. The author was a Jew living in Alexandria, Egypt. He wrote in Greek, yet he skillfully imitated the style of ancient Hebrew poetry, and he placed all of his teaching under the name of the wisest king in history, King Solomon. In reality, when most people hear the title of the book, their natural reaction is to believe that King Solomon himself took up the pen and wrote it. But modern scholarship has pointed to a different reality. This is a pseudonymous work, meaning it was written under an assumed name. Do not rush to think of this as fraud. In the ancient world, writing in the name of a great figure was a fully accepted literary technique. The author did this in order to place his work within an already recognized stream of tradition, especially because the book deals with extremely weighty themes: justice, royal power, and life after death. The Encyclopedia Britannica also records this clearly, although the book presents itself as the words of Solomon. It was certainly written in Greek in the 1st century before Christ, most likely in Alexandria. To understand the power of this book, you must understand Alexandria at that time. It was the most brilliant intellectual center of the ancient world. There, the Jewish diaspora community was living between Roman power Egyptian religion and the philosophy of Plato on one side, and the traditional faith in the God of their fathers on the other. The wisdom of Solomon was born right inside that cultural furnace. The author was a faithful Jew, yet he was using the language and reasoning methods of Greek philosophy to speak to fellow Jews who were being tempted by pagan civilization. Practically speaking, this was a book written for people being pulled apart. On one side stood faith in the one God, the Creator and Judge. On the other side stood the splendor of Greco-Roman culture, with its philosophy, fame, pleasure, and pressure to assimilate. The author wrote to awaken them, true wisdom does not lie in Western philosophy, but comes from God. The death of the righteous is not the end, and history has already proven that God always delivers his people. The greatest controversy surrounding the wisdom of Solomon is its place in the Bible. Many people online like to call it a forbidden book or a book hidden by the church. But history does not operate like a conspiracy theory. Its history is a complex process of classification. In the Catholic tradition, this is a deuterocanonical book, meaning it is an official part of the Old Testament. The decree Sacra Sancta at the Council of Trent in 1546 formally confirmed this. Eastern Orthodoxy also preserves it within its Greek biblical heritage. But in rabbinic Jewish tradition and among most Protestants, this book is placed in the Apocrypha for one extremely strict technical reason. It was never part of the original Hebrew canon. The major turning point came during the Reformation. Martin Luther and the Reformers decided to return to a core principle. Only the Old Testament books with Hebrew originals would be recognized. Therefore, wisdom was moved into the Apocrypha, meaning books that are good to read for moral instruction, but not to be used as the foundation for building doctrine. At first, Protestant Bibles, such as the King James Bible of 1611, still printed the Apocrypha between the Old Testament and the New Testament. But in the 19th century, a very practical reality occurred. In 1826, the British and Foreign Bible Society decided to stop printing the Apocrypha in order to reduce printing costs. Other publishers immediately followed. As a result, in the minds of modern Protestant believers, this book suddenly disappeared, while for Catholics and Eastern Orthodox Christians, it had always remained there. So why does this book carry such strong impact? Let us analyze the content of the book to find the answer. The book is divided into 3 main parts, and each part carries astonishing weight. Chapters 1 through 5, the fate of the wicked and the righteous. At the opening of chapter 1, the author aims directly at the ruling elite. Love righteousness, you rulers of the earth. Power must go hand in hand with morality, because sin will drag human beings toward death. But chapter 2 is what truly shocks Christian readers. The author places words into the mouths of the wicked. They mock the righteous man plot to torture him and declare that they will condemn him to a shameful death in order to see whether God will truly come to rescue his son. When Christians read this passage, they cannot help but feel a chill, because it looks almost exactly like a detailed sketch of the Passion of Jesus. Moving into chapters 3, 4, and 5, the book delivers an explosive message. The souls of the righteous are in the hand of God. Even if they die young, even if the world despises them, their death is their release from a corrupt world. On the final day of judgment, the position will be reversed. The wicked will be terrified when they see those they once trampled now standing upright as children of God. Chapters 6 through 9, the nature of wisdom. In this central section, the figure of Solomon officially speaks. He speaks directly to kings and tells them that the higher their power rises, the more terrifying God's judgment becomes. In chapter 7, wisdom is personified in beautiful language as a powerful breath of God and a radiance flowing from the Almighty. For Christian theology, this language is extremely close to the concept of the Logos, or the Word, in the Gospel of John. The climax comes in chapter 9, where the entire philosophy is distilled into a prayer. Human beings are weak, the body is heavy, and only wisdom sent down from God can help us live as truly human beings. Chapters 10 through 19, history as iron evidence. The final part is an extremely compressed summary of salvation history. The author reviews the period from Adam, Noah, Abraham, and Moses to the Exodus in order to prove a physical law of moral cause and effect. The same natural elements such as water or fire can become a life-saving blessing for the righteous, such as water from the rock, while becoming a deadly punishment for the oppressor, such as the plague of the Nile River turning into blood, or the Red Sea swallowing the Egyptian army. At the same time, in chapters 13 through 15, the author delivers a powerful blow against the foolishness of idol worship. A direct awakening for the Jewish community living in the middle of Egypt's polytheistic culture. Based on all the analysis above, we can easily understand why the wisdom of Solomon has been a controversial minefield for the past 2,000 years. There is the issue of origin. It was written in Greek and carries a strong Hellenistic character, placing it outside the safe zone of the Hebrew canon. At the same time, the book also creates controversy over the issue of authorship. The use of Solomon's name creates a tension between reading the book through pure faith and reading it through a historical literary lens. It is also worth noting that the book speaks very clearly about the immortality of the soul and heavenly reward details that Protestants treat with great caution when building doctrine because of the Apocrypha barrier. Likewise, the mockery in chapter 2 sounds so close to the life of Jesus that it becomes a prophecy for Catholics and Eastern Orthodox Christians, while remaining a historical text for Protestants. And the way the book elevates wisdom almost to the level of a mediating reality between God and humanity, unintentionally blurs the boundary between Greek philosophy and biblical revelation. But no matter which religious lens you stand within, the power of this book cannot be denied. It is beautiful because it defends justice, affirms life after death, and praises faithfulness. It is controversial because it dares to stand right on the sharp boundary between Judaism and early Christianity, between Western philosophy and God, between life, death, and the final judgment. And perhaps that very tension is what makes the wisdom of Solomon a truly timeless masterpiece. A shocking prophecy before the birth of Jesus. In the entire book of the Wisdom of Solomon, if we had to choose one section that makes Christian readers stop in astonishment, for the longest time, it would certainly be chapter 2. The reason is very simple. This chapter is an eerily detailed sketch of a conspiracy. The conspiracy of a group of wicked men against someone they call the righteous man. A person who lives uprightly dares to condemn their corrupt way of life and claims to have a special relationship with God. In the end, they decide to test this man through humiliation, torture, and the most shameful kind of death. But what makes this passage truly shocking is not merely its content, it is its date. According to the records of the United States Conference of Catholic Bishops, or USCCB, this book was written about 50 years before Jesus was born. The author was an anonymous Jew living in Egypt, and he wrote in Greek. Pause for a moment and think about what that means. It means that before Jesus sweat blood in the Garden of Gethsemane, before he was dragged before the religious court, before Roman soldiers placed a crown of thorns on his head, and before the crowd shouted at him, daring him to come down from the cross, there was already a Jewish text describing with 100% accuracy the psychology, attitude, and dialogue of the very people who would kill him. Chapter 2 begins by going straight into the minds of the wicked. Their thinking is completely pragmatic. Human life is short. Death is the end. Man is born by chance and will vanish. So why not enjoy every pleasure, wine, and power while we still can? And when human beings treat pleasure as the only measure of life, the moral foundation begins to collapse. They begin to trample the weak, exploit the poor, and take strength as truth. Everything is going smoothly until the righteous man appears. He does not use violence against them, but his holy and upright existence itself becomes a direct slap against their corrupt conscience. He condemns them for breaking the law. He declares that he knows God. He calls himself the Son of God. His presence makes them feel suffocated. And then the conspiracy enters its most frightening stage. In Wisdom, chapter 2, verses 17 through 20, the wicked speak among themselves like this: "Let us see whether his words are true. Let us test what will happen at his death. If he truly is the Son of God, God will come to rescue him. Let us test him with insult and torture. Let us condemn him to the most shameful death, because according to his own words, God will protect him. That is the point that sends a chill down the spine of anyone who reads it. Because if you open the New Testament and turn to the account of Jesus being crucified in the Gospel of Matthew chapter 27, verse 43, you will hear the crowd beneath the cross shouting almost the exact same sentence. He trusted in God. Let God deliver him now if he desires him. For he said, I am the Son of God. This correspondence is so precise that it forces people to ask a question. How could an unknown author in Alexandria, Egypt, write a script so similar to what would happen at Golgotha half a century later? He wrote about a man hated because of his holiness, tortured, lifted up to receive a shameful death, and challenged with the very same idea. If God is on your side, let him come and save you. This is no longer merely an ancient text. It has become an investigative file. Of course, to be fair to history, we have to take one step back. In the context of Second Temple Judaism, the image of the righteous sufferer was not new. The book of Job had already spoken about it. The Psalms are filled with the laments of the righteous, surrounded by enemies. And especially important is the image of the suffering servant in the book of Isaiah, chapter 53. Therefore, Wisdom chapter 2 can absolutely be understood as the continuation of a line of thought deeply rooted in Jewish culture. But when you place this passage under the light of the New Testament, everything suddenly becomes razor sharp. This passage does not speak only about suffering in a general sense. It reveals the logic of the wicked. You see, the wicked rarely fear those who are stronger than they are. They fear those who live decently because that decency exposes their decay. They want to use the most brutal and shameful death possible to prove one thing: God has abandoned this man. That is exactly the logic of those who mocked Jesus. They thought that if God remained silent on the cross, then every claim Jesus had made would collapse. But through the lens of Christianity, the cross is not failure. Humiliation becomes the highest point of obedience. Death becomes the doorway through which death itself receives its fatal blow. The mockery of the crowd suddenly becomes a perfect piece within the plan of salvation. A plan they did not even realize was unfolding. Therefore, the wisdom of Solomon is like an ancient mirror placed before the Passion. It shows us that sin always knows how to use reason to justify violence, whether you are Catholic or Eastern Orthodox traditions that regard this book as official scripture, or Protestant, viewing it as an extra-canonical document from the Second Temple period. Its weight cannot be denied. And this is what forces us to think. If Wisdom Chapter 2 is only a Jewish philosophical work, it is already frightening enough because of its understanding of criminal psychology. But when placed beside the trial before Pilate and the hill of Golgotha, you feel as though you are reading a text that has traveled through time. If a text once pushed outside the official biblical canon of many churches contains one of the clearest prophetic portraits of the condemnation of Jesus, then the story of these controversial books may contain far more hidden secrets than we have ever been told. And if chapter 2 is already this shocking, then what is the rest of the wisdom of Solomon truly concealing? The Sophia file, a forgotten goddess or a haunting shadow. After taking us through the chilling prophecy in chapter 2, this book does not let you rest. It continues to pull you down an even deeper rabbit hole. This time, the central figure is not a righteous man being murdered, nor is it the wicked plotting a conspiracy. The central figure here is wisdom. And in Greek, wisdom is called Sophia. The moment this name appears, it immediately opens a vast field of debate that has stretched across the past 2,000 years. For ordinary people like us, wisdom is simply a noun describing a state of being. It is the ability to think logically, to live with experience, and to distinguish right from wrong. But when you turn to chapter 7 of the Wisdom of Solomon, every one of those definitions is broken apart. The author does not describe wisdom as a moral lesson or a soft skill. He describes wisdom as a living entity, an active presence moving alongside God Himself. Listen to the way the document of the United States Conference of Catholic Bishops, or USCCB, records chapter 7, verses 25 through 27. The author calls Sophia the breath of the power of God, a pure emanation of the glory of the Almighty, a reflection of eternal light and the image of His goodness. Those lines alone are enough to make any biblical scholar pause. The author is saying that Sophia has the ability to penetrate all things, renew all things, and most especially, she can enter directly into holy souls and shape them into prophets and friends of God. It is precisely this vivid and almost personified description that has turned chapter 7 into a minefield of conspiracy theories and opposing interpretations. The first current, the view of esotericism and conspiracy theories. In Greek grammar, the word Sophia is a feminine noun. In Hebrew, the word for wisdom, chokhmah, is also feminine. From this linguistic root, ancient esoteric movements, such as Gnosticism, took the image of Sophia and turned her into an independent goddess, a divine being who fell from heaven into the material world. Even today, many New Age groups and conspiracy theorists still cling to this chapter 7 and claim that Sophia represents the sacred feminine, a powerful goddess or a cosmic super energy that was deliberately hidden and erased from history by male-dominated churches in order to consolidate power. That is an extremely fascinating story. It touches directly on human curiosity about hidden forces and history books that have been rewritten. The second current, the view of Orthodox Christianity. But when we are making a serious documentary, we must draw a clear boundary based on evidence. And the Encyclopedia Britannica summarizes this very accurately: wisdom. Chapter 7 does not create an independent goddess or a demon. It is the personification of a supreme attribute of God. For Christian theologians, chapter 7 is the perfect draft preparing the way for the New Testament. When the author describes Sophia as the reflection of light and the breath of God, the early church fathers immediately recognized this as the precursor language they would use to explain the Holy Spirit and Jesus Christ, the one whom the Gospel of John calls the Word or Logos, and whom the Apostle Paul calls the power of God and the wisdom of God, quoted in 1 Corinthians chapter 1, verse 24. So where does the truth lie? Why would a Jewish author, before the time of Jesus, use language that comes so close to the mystery of the divine to describe wisdom? To answer that, you must remember where the author stood. He was in Alexandria, the intellectual capital of the ancient world. Every day he had to listen to Greek philosophers speak endlessly about logos, cosmic order, and the divine soul. If he had simply said, "Believe in God," no one would have listened. So he did something brilliant. He used the highest philosophical language of the Greeks, combined it with the image of wisdom in the Old Testament in Proverbs chapter 8, and created the figure of Sophia. His message was very clear. Are you searching for a transcendent intelligence that governs this universe? It is not found in the Greek gods. It is the breath that proceeds from the God of Israel. All true wisdom comes from Him. The author does not invite readers to worship Sophia as a goddess. He does not set Sophia up as a rival to God. The central point of the entire chapter 7 is this power throne: gold, silver, health, or beauty. All of it is worthless if you do not possess wisdom. A king without wisdom will turn power into slaughter. A society without wisdom will worship material things and violence. A person may have the highest degrees in the world, but without wisdom, that person's soul is already dead before God. It is precisely this layering of ancient poetry, Jewish theology, and Greek philosophy that has made Sophia such a captivating subject even today. A single word. Wisdom has passed through the Hebrew Bible, early Christianity, the esoteric movements of Gnosticism, and has become an endless source of inspiration for the present age. But when you clear away the fog of conspiracy theories and read chapter 7 slowly, you will see that it delivers an extremely sharp warning to us in the 21st century. We are living in an age of exploding data. We have AI advanced technology, the ability to build megacities and operate giant corporations. We have so much information, but we are running out of wisdom. We hold power in our hands, yet we are losing the ability to distinguish what is sacred from what will destroy our souls. This book wants to tell you that supreme intelligence does not come from man. On the contrary, wisdom that rises far beyond ordinary human ability can only be given by the Creator. At this point, if you study ancient Jewish texts and folklore deeply, you will encounter another extremely famous female name, often placed in complete contrast to Sophia. That name is Lilith, the figure mentioned in legend, such as in the alphabet of Sirach, as the first woman of humanity created from dust at the same time as Adam, long before Eve appeared. What is the story of Lilith legend says that Lilith was extremely intelligent and powerful. But that intelligence came with extreme arrogance. She refused to submit to the order that God had established. Lilith wanted to rule to control her own destiny at any cost. In the end, she chose rebellion and left. The Garden of Eden rejected the light of God and became a symbol of demons, darkness, and destruction. Lilith is the perfect archetype of dark knowledge intelligence separated from morality. It is the desire to seize power in order to crown oneself, to define the rules without bowing before any creator. Now look at Sophia in chapter 7 of the Wisdom of Solomon. Does Sophia have powers? Even limitless power. She renews all things and understands every secret of the universe. But Sophia's power does not come from rebellion. It is breath. It is the reflection of light from God. Sophia is great precisely because she is completely obedient and united with the will of God. She does not seek power for herself. She brings that power into holy souls and makes them friends of God. The contrast between Lilith and Sophia is not an outdated mythological story. It is an exact reflection of our society today. We are living in a world that worships the path of Lilith. We idolize sharp intelligence, manipulation skills, and power that will use any method to win. We have AI biotechnology, the ability to unlock DNA and interfere with nature. We are turning ourselves into little gods. Modern humanity possesses a massive amount of information and knowledge to exploit this material world, yet we are becoming empty of wisdom. The Wisdom of Solomon was written more than 2,000 years ago to shatter that illusion. It wants to tell you a harsh truth. Supreme intelligence never begins with the cleverness or arrogance of the human biological brain. Any power built on pride, like the way of Lilith, will ultimately lead the soul towards self-destruction in darkness. True wisdom always begins with one act: absolute humility before the Creator. And that is exactly why Sophia is both controversial and haunting. Behind the label of forgotten goddess that conspiracy theories often attach to her, Chapter 7 places a life or death choice directly before us, a question you cannot escape. Are you using your brief time on earth to desire arrogant knowledge in order to manipulate the world? Are you seeking holy wisdom so that your soul may truly live before God? Mystery 3. the anonymous figure behind the mask of Solomon. After chapter 2, with its image of the righteous man being condemned, and then chapter 7 with Sophia described as the living wisdom of God. The wisdom of Solomon opens another question, one even harder to answer: who was truly behind this book? The title says, Wisdom of Solomon, meaning the wisdom of Solomon. But today, scholars are almost in agreement that the biblical King Solomon was not the direct author of this text. The Catholic Encyclopedia clearly states that scholars today recognize Solomon was not the writer of the Book of Wisdom. The work was attributed to him because the author used a literary fiction, speaking as though he were the son of King David in order to place the teaching in the mouth of the wisest king in the Hebrew tradition. If Solomon was not the author, then who wrote this book? According to scholarly research, we only know that the author was an anonymous Jew living within the Jewish community of Alexandria, Egypt, and writing in Greek. The USCCB clearly introduces the author as unknown. This person most likely belonged to the Jewish community of Alexandria, wrote in Greek in a style that imitated Hebrew poetry, and at times spoke in the role of Solomon in order to emphasize the value of the teaching. But that very anonymity makes the story more fascinating, because Alexandria at that time was not an ordinary city. It was a massive intellectual center of the Mediterranean world. The Jews in Alexandria lived among libraries, Greek philosophy, Koine Greek, the schools of Plato and Stoicism, and debates about the soul, reason the universe, politics, and religion. They read scripture through the Septuagint. They kept the law of Moses in a society filled with pagan temples, imperial rituals, pressure to assimilate, and the attraction of Greco-Roman culture. Therefore, the author of the Wisdom of Solomon may have been one of the elite Jewish intellectuals of that community. This person understood the Hebrew scriptures. This person used Greek very well. This person knew how to speak to the ruling class, because the book opens with a call for kings and rulers to love righteousness. This person knew philosophy, because the book contains concepts about the soul, immortality, wisdom, cosmic order, and life after death. This person also knew the fear of the Jewish diaspora community, the fear of losing faith in the middle of an overwhelmingly powerful civilization. This is why the theory about Philo of Alexandria once appeared. Philo was an outstanding Jewish philosopher who lived in Alexandria from around the year 20 before Christ to around the year 50 after Christ. He was famous for attempting to present the Jewish scriptures in the language of Greek philosophy, especially through the influence of Plato and the tradition of symbolic interpretation. Because Philo also lived in Alexandria, also wrote in Greek, and also tried to connect scripture with philosophy. Some older traditions and scholars once raised the question, could Philo have been the author of the Wisdom of Solomon? That theory has great storytelling power. A brilliant Jewish philosopher living in the intellectual capital of the ancient world quietly writes a work under the name of Solomon to defend the faith of his people against the power of the Greco-Roman world. That idea alone feels like a secret file in biblical history. But when we enter modern scholarship, the Philo theory faces many obstacles. Some ancient and medieval sources once connected wisdom with different figures. But present-day analysis usually separates the author of Wisdom from Philo. Biblical Cyclopedia points out several differences between the Book of Wisdom and Philo's thought, including their understanding of the serpent, the origin of idolatry, and especially the idea of divine wisdom. This source argues that the author of Wisdom reveals a system of thought different from Philo's. That only deepens the mystery. If the author was not Solomon, and if the Philo theory is more of an intriguing possibility than a firm conclusion, then who was this anonymous figure? A more reasonable explanation suggests that the author may have belonged to an educated class of diaspora Jews in Alexandria. This person may have been a teacher, a scholar, an interpreter of scripture, a member of an elite group within the synagogue community, or an author trained in the world of the Septuagint. Some scholars have also asked whether the work may have come from a school of writers, meaning a school or group of authors. But many recent studies lean toward viewing wisdom as a unified work with one voice and a clear theological program. Academic overview sources note that the book was written in Greek in Alexandria around the late 1st century before Christ to the early 1st century after Christ, with a very clear Hellenistic Jewish background. From here, we can understand the use of Solomon's name in a deeper way. In the modern world, people easily view the use of another person's name as textual fraud. But in ancient literature, especially in the Jewish and Christian environment of the Second Temple period, placing teaching under the name of a great figure was often a literary method for bringing a present voice into a recognized stream of traditional authority. With the wisdom of Solomon, the author chose Solomon because he was the most fitting figure. Solomon was the king, associated with wisdom, justice, wealth, power, the prayer for understanding, and the ability to govern God's people. When a work wants to speak to kings, defend wisdom, warn power, and present righteousness before God, the Mask of Solomon carries enormous weight. In documentary language, this was a carefully calculated textual campaign. The anonymous author was facing a world with a powerful force of assimilation. Young Jews in Alexandria heard Greek every day. They walked past Egyptian and Greek statues. They lived in a society where pagan philosophy seemed refined. Roman power seemed unbeatable, and Jewish life could be viewed as ancient, closed off, and weak. In that situation, the author of Wisdom wrote a book that carried the breadth of Scripture, while also using the intellectual language of the Greek world. He wanted to prove that the faith of Israel had enough intellectual depth to speak with any philosopher, and enough moral power to judge any empire. This is the psychological warfare of the wisdom of Solomon. The author chose Solomon in order to speak to those being captivated by Greek intelligence and say, Israel also has a tradition of wisdom higher than every school out there. He wrote in Greek in order to step directly into the language of the world that was dominating culture. He used the image of kingship to speak to the powerful saying that true rule must be righteous before God. He used arguments about the soul immortality and judgment to answer those who lived for pleasure and saw life as random. He used the story of the Exodus to remind the Jewish community that God had once defeated the Egyptian empire, so Rome or any other power also stood under his judgment. Below is the rewritten script section, personalized directly into the listener's ear and turning an academic analysis into a sharp, investigative file. Now, let us talk about the person who wrote this book. The fact that he took the name Solomon was not plagiarism or cheap impersonation. It was an extremely brilliant act of psychological warfare. The author knew one harsh truth very clearly: if he signed his real name, no one would care to listen. But when he wrapped himself in the mantle of the greatest and wisest king in history, the entire ancient world was forced to grow silent and pay attention. He borrowed Solomon's throne to warn other thrones. He borrowed the glory of Jerusalem to awaken the Jews who were spiritually asleep and being assimilated in Alexandria. He used the authority of the past to forge a weapon that could defend faith in the present. And this anonymity itself creates one of the most mysterious files in history. It stimulates the curiosity of anyone who loves investigation. In the end, who was the hidden figure behind this book? Look at what he left behind: a person with a brilliant mind, skilled enough in Greek to write a literary masterpiece, deep enough in Scripture to summarize history from Adam to Moses, sharp enough in Western philosophy to discuss the immortal soul, and brave enough to strike directly at rulers who worshipped idols. Yet in the end, he chose to erase every trace of himself. Who was he? A learned scholar hiding inside the synagogue of Alexandria, a Jewish philosopher trained among the Greek elite, a secret intellectual circle working together to produce a life or death document to protect their community, or simply one lonely man who understood all too well that his personal name meant nothing compared to the weight of the mission he carried on his shoulders. To this day, history still has no answer. No one knows his true identity. But you know what? That very silence creates a devastating force. When the author's ego disappears, the message of the book immediately takes the whole stage. The author vanishes, but his warning lives on. The wisdom of Solomon was never written to seek fame or money. It was written to make sure that good people would not collapse before the brutality of the wicked. It was written to teach the elite and the heads of nations what justice means. It was written to remind your soul to seek God in a world drowning in material idols. By hiding his real name, this brilliant author fully practiced the greatest lesson he taught: true wisdom is always greater than every form of human fame. And when a person accepts the erasure of his own identity in order to leave behind such a masterpiece, the only way for us to truly respect it is no longer to stand outside and dissect or analyze it. The only way is to step directly into his world. We have said enough about the historical controversies, the religious boundaries, and the conspiracy theories surrounding this book. Now it is time to set all those lenses aside. It is time to let these ancient words speak for themselves. If you are driving, stay focused. But if you are in your room, dim the lights, find a quiet space, close your eyes, and let your mind relax. Right now, together, we will reopen the manuscript that has been buried for more than 2,000 years. Let your soul judge for itself the weight of these prophecies of justice and of the radiance called Sophia. Welcome to the complete recorded text of one of the most mysterious masterpieces in history, the Book of Wisdom of Solomon. Before we officially begin, I want to make one brief but extremely important note about the version you are about to hear. All of the audio content and the text displayed on screen in this video are taken from the classic King James Version Bible, also known as the KJV. Specifically, the edition that includes the group of books known as the Apocrypha. And here is some wonderful news for you. This version of the KJV is now fully in the public domain. That means it is 100% free and is not bound by any commercial copyright restrictions. It is no longer the exclusive property of any organization or publisher. It belongs to all humanity. So you can feel completely at peace as you listen. Write down the words that touch your heart, or freely share this entire audio with anyone you believe may need healing comfort or a quiet word of guidance. Now relax. Let us begin. Chapter 1. Exhortation to Uprightness. Life as the ungodly see it. Exhortation to uprightness. Love righteousness, you rulers of the earth. Think of the Lord in goodness, and seek him with sincerity of heart, because he is found by those who do not put him to the test, and manifests himself to those who do not distrust him. For perverse thoughts separate people from God, and when his power is tested, it exposes the foolish, because wisdom will not enter a deceitful soul, or dwell in a body enslaved to sin. For a holy and disciplined spirit will flee from deceit, and will leave foolish thoughts behind, and will be ashamed at the approach of unrighteousness. For wisdom is a kindly spirit, but it will not free blasphemers from the guilt of their words, because God is witness of their inmost feelings, and a true observer of their hearts, and a hearer of their tongues. Because the Spirit of the Lord has filled the world, and that which holds all things together knows what is said. Therefore those who utter unrighteous things will not escape notice, and justice, when it punishes, will not pass them by. For inquiry will be made into the counsels of the ungodly, and a report of their words will come to the Lord to convict them of their lawless deeds, because a jealous ear hears all things, and the sound of grumbling does not go unheard. Beware then of useless grumbling, and keep your tongue from slander, because no secret word is without result, and a lying mouth destroys the soul. Do not court death by the error of your life, or bring on destruction by the works of your hands. Because God did not make death, and he does not delight in the destruction of the living. For he created all things so that they might exist. The generative forces of the world are wholesome, and there is no destructive poison in them, and the dominion of Hades is not on earth. For righteousness is immortal. Life as the ungodly see it, but the ungodly by their words and deeds summon death. Considering him a friend, they pined away and made a covenant with him, because they are fit to belong to his company. Chapter 2. Error of the wicked. For they reasoned unsoundly, saying to themselves, "Short and sorrowful is our life, and there is no remedy when a life comes to its end, and no one has been known to return from Hades. For we were born by mere chance, and hereafter we shall be as though we had never been. For the breath in our nostrils is smoke, and reason is a spark kindled by the beating of our hearts. When it is extinguished, the body will turn to ashes, and the spirit will dissolve like empty air. Our name will be forgotten in time, and no one will remember our works. Our life will pass away like the traces of a cloud, and be scattered like mist that is chased by the rays of the sun, and overcome by its heat. For our allotted time is the passing of a shadow, and there is no return from our death, because it is sealed up, and no one turns back. Come therefore, let us enjoy the good things that exist, and make use of the creation to the full, as in youth. Let us take our fill of costly wine and perfumes, and let no flower of spring pass us by. Let us crown ourselves with rosebuds before they wither. Let no meadow be free from our revelry. Everywhere let us leave signs of enjoyment, because this is our portion, and this our lot. Let us oppress the righteous poor man. Let us not spare the widow, or regard the gray hairs of the aged. But let our might be our law of right, for what is weak proves itself to be useless. Let us lie in wait for the righteous man, because he is inconvenient to us and opposes our actions. He reproaches us for sins against the law, and accuses us of sins against our training. He professes to have knowledge of God, and calls himself a child of the Lord. He became to us a reproof of our thoughts. The very sight of him is a burden to us, because his manner of life is unlike that of others, and his ways are strange. We are considered by him as something base, and he avoids our ways as unclean. He calls the last end of the righteous happy, and boasts that God is his Father. Let us see if his words are true, and let us test what will happen at the end of his life. For if the righteous man is God's child, he will help him and will deliver him from the hand of his adversaries. Let us test him with insult and torture, so that we may find out how reasonable he is, and make trial of his forbearance. Let us condemn him to a shameful death, for according to what he says, he will be protected. Error of the wicked. Thus they reasoned, but they were led astray, for their wickedness blinded them. And they did not know the secret purposes of God, nor hoped for the wages of holiness, nor discerned the prize for blameless souls. For God created us for incorruption, and made us in the image of his own eternity. But through an adversary's envy, death entered the world, and those who belong to his company experience it. Chapter 3. The destiny of the righteous. The destiny of the ungodly. On childlessness. The destiny of the righteous. But the souls of the righteous are in the hand of God, and no torment will ever touch them. In the eyes of the foolish, they seem to have died, and their departure was thought to be a disaster, and their going from us to be their destruction. But they are at peace. For though in the sight of others they were punished, their hope is full of immortality. Having been disciplined a little, they will receive great good, because God tested them and found them worthy of himself. Like gold in the furnace, he tried them, and like a sacrificial burnt offering, he accepted them. In the time of their visitation, they will shine forth and will run like sparks through the stubble. They will govern nations and rule over peoples, and the Lord will reign over them forever. Those who trust in him will understand truth, and the faithful will abide with him in love, because grace and mercy are upon his holy ones, and he watches over his elect. The destiny of the ungodly. But the ungodly will be punished, as their reasoning deserves those who disregarded the righteous, and rebelled against the Lord. For those who despise wisdom and instruction are miserable. Their hope is vain, their labors are unprofitable, and their works are useless. Their wives are foolish, and their children evil. Their offspring are cursed. On childlessness. For blessed is the barren woman who is undefiled, who has not entered into a sinful union. She will have fruit when God examines souls. Blessed also is the eunuch, whose hands have done no lawless deed, and who has not devised wicked things against the Lord, for special favor will be shown him for his faithfulness, and a place of great delight in the temple of the Lord. For the fruit of good labors is renowned, and the root of understanding does not fail. But children of adulterers will not come to maturity, and the offspring of an unlawful union will perish. Even if they live long, they will be held of no account, and finally their old age will be without honor. If they die young, they will have no hope and no consolation on the day of judgment. For the end of an unrighteous generation is grievous. Chapter 4. The triumph of the righteous. The final judgment. Better than this is childlessness with virtue. For in the memory of virtue is immortality, because it is known both by God and by mortals. When it is present, people imitate it, and they long for it when it is gone. Throughout all time it marches crowned in triumph, victor in the contest for prizes that are undefiled. But the prolific brood of the ungodly will be of no use, and none of their illegitimate seedlings will strike a deep root or take a firm hold. For even if they put forth boughs for a while, standing insecurely, they will be shaken by the wind, and by the violence of the winds they will be uprooted. The branches will be broken off before they come to maturity, and their fruit will be useless, not ripe enough to eat, and good for nothing. For children born of unlawful unions are witnesses of evil against their parents when God examines them. But the righteous, even if they die early, will be at rest, for old age is not honored for length of time, or measured by number of years. But understanding is gray hair for anyone, and a blameless life is ripe old age. There was one who pleased God and was loved by him, and while living among sinners was taken up. He was caught up so that evil might not change his understanding, or guile deceive his soul. For the fascination of wickedness obscures what is good, and roving desire perverts the innocent mind. Being perfected in a short time, he fulfilled long years, for his soul was pleasing to the Lord. Therefore he hastened him from the midst of wickedness. Yet the people saw and did not understand, or take such a thing to heart, that God's grace and mercy are with his elect, and that he watches over his holy ones. The triumph of the righteous. The righteous who have died will condemn the ungodly who are living, and youth that is quickly perfected will condemn the prolonged old age of the unrighteous. For they will see the end of the wise, and will not understand what the Lord purposed for them, and for what he kept them safe. The unrighteous will see and will have contempt for them, but the Lord will laugh them to scorn. After this, they will become dishonored corpses and an outrage among the dead forever, because he will dash them speechless to the ground and shake them from the foundations. They will be left utterly dry and barren, and they will suffer anguish, and the memory of them will perish. The final judgment. They will come with dread when their sins are reckoned up, and their lawless deeds will convict them to their face. Chapter 5. The reward of the righteous. Then the righteous will stand with great confidence in the presence of those who have oppressed them and those who make light of their labors. When the unrighteous see them, they will be shaken with dreadful fear, and they will be amazed at the unexpected salvation of the righteous. They will speak to one another in repentance and in anguish of spirit. They will groan. These are persons whom we once held in derision and made a byword of reproach, fools that we were. We thought that their lives were madness and that their end was without honor. Why have they been numbered among the children of God? And why is their lot among the Holy One? So it was we who strayed from the way of truth, and the light of righteousness did not shine on us, and the sun did not rise upon us. We took our fill of the paths of lawlessness and destruction, and we journeyed through trackless deserts. But the way of the Lord we have not known. What has our arrogance profited us, and what good has our boasted wealth brought us? All those things have vanished like a shadow, and like a rumor that passes by, like a ship that sails through the billowy water. And when it is past, no trace can be found, no track of its keel in the waves. Or, as when a bird flies through the air, no evidence of its passage is found. The light air, lashed by the beat of its pinions and pierced by the force of its rushing flight, is traversed by the movement of its wings, and afterward no sign of its coming is found there. Or as when an arrow is shot at a target, the air thus divided comes together at once, so that no one knows its pathway. So we also, as soon as we were born, ceased to be, and we had no sign of virtue to show, but were consumed in our wickedness, because the hope of the ungodly is like thistledown carried by the wind, and like a light frost driven away by a storm. It is dispersed like smoke before the wind, and it passes like the remembrance of a guest who stays but a day. The reward of the righteous. But the righteous live forever, and their reward is with the Lord. The Most High takes care of them. Therefore they will receive a glorious crown and a beautiful diadem from the hand of the Lord, because with his right hand he will cover them, and with his arm he will shield them. The Lord will take his zeal as his whole armor, and will arm all creation to repel his enemies. He will put on righteousness as a breastplate, and wear impartial justice as a helmet. He will take holiness as an invincible shield, and sharpen stern wrath for a sword, and the world will join him to fight against the senseless. Shafts of lightning will fly with true aim, and will leap from the clouds to the target as from a well-drawn bow, and hailstones full of wrath will be hurled as from a catapult. The water of the sea will rage against them, and rivers will relentlessly overwhelm them. A mighty wind will rise against them, and like a tempest, it will winnow them away. Lawlessness will lay waste the whole earth, and evil-doing will overturn the thrones of rulers. Chapter 6. Kings should seek wisdom. Description of wisdom. Kings should seek wisdom. Listen therefore, O kings, and understand. Learn, O judges of the ends of the earth. Give ear, you who rule over multitudes, and boast of many nations. For your dominion was given you from the Lord, and your sovereignty from the Most High. He will search out your works and inquire into your plans. Because as servants of his kingdom, you did not rule rightly or keep the law, or walk according to the purpose of God, he will come upon you terribly and swiftly, because severe judgment falls on those in high places. For the lowliest may be pardoned in mercy, but the mighty will be mightily tested. For the Lord of all will not stand in awe of anyone, or show deference to greatness, because he himself made both small and great, and he takes thought for all alike. But a strict inquiry is in store for the mighty. To you then, O monarchs, my words are directed, so that you may learn wisdom and not transgress. For they will be made holy, who observe holy things in holiness, and those who have been taught them will find a defense. Therefore set your desire on my words. Long for them, and you will be instructed. Description of wisdom. Wisdom is radiant and unfading, and she is easily discerned by those who love her, and is found by those who seek her. She hastens to make herself known to those who desire her. One who rises early to seek her will have no difficulty, for she will be found sitting at the gate. To fix one's thought on her is perfect understanding, and one who is vigilant on her account will soon be free from care, because she goes about seeking those worthy of her, and she graciously appears to them in their paths, and meets them in every thought. The beginning of wisdom is the most sincere desire for instruction, and concern or instruction is love of her. And love of her is the keeping of her laws, and giving heed to her laws is assurance of immortality, and immortality brings one near to God. So the desire for wisdom leads to a kingdom. Therefore, if you delight in thrones and scepters, O monarchs over the peoples, honor wisdom, so that you may reign forever. I will tell you what wisdom is, and how she came to be, and I will hide no secrets from you. But I will trace her course from the beginning of creation, and make knowledge of her clear. And I will not pass by the truth, nor will I travel in the company of sickly envy, for envy does not associate with wisdom. The multitude of the wise is the salvation of the world, and a sensible king is the stability of any people. Therefore be instructed by my words, and you will profit. Chapter 7. The king is like other mortals. Respect for wisdom, prayer for wisdom, the nature of wisdom. The king is like other mortals. I also am mortal like everyone else, a descendant of the first formed child of earth, and in the womb of a mother. I was molded into flesh within the period of 10 months, compacted with blood from the seed of a man and the pleasure of marriage. And when I was born, I began to breathe the common air and fell upon the kindred earth. My first sound was a cry, as is true of all. I was nursed with care in swaddling cloths. For no king has had a different beginning of existence. There is for all one entrance into life and one way out. Respect for wisdom. Therefore I prayed, and understanding was given me. I called on God, and the spirit of wisdom came to me. I preferred her to scepters and thrones, and I accounted wealth as nothing in comparison with her. Neither did I liken to her any priceless gem, because all gold is but a little sand in her sight, and silver will be accounted as clay before her. I loved her more than health and beauty, and I chose to have her rather than light, because her radiance never ceases. All good things came to me along with her, and in her hands uncounted wealth. I rejoiced in them all, because wisdom leads them. But I did not know that she was their mother. I learned without guile, and I impart without grudging. I do not hide her wealth, for it is an unfailing treasure for mortals. Those who get it obtain friendship with God, commended for the gifts that come from instruction. Prayer for wisdom. May God grant me to speak with judgment and to have thoughts worthy of what I have received, for He is the guide, even of wisdom, and the corrector of the wise. For both we and our words are in His hand, as are all understanding and skill in crafts. For it is He who gave me unerring knowledge of what exists to know the structure of the world and the activity of the elements, the beginning and end and middle of time, the alternations of the solstices and the changes of the seasons, the cycles of the year and the constellations of the stars, the natures of animals and the tempers of wild animals, the powers of spirits and the thoughts of human beings, the varieties of plants and the virtues of roots. I learned both what is secret and what is manifest for wisdom. The fashioner of all things taught me the nature of wisdom. There is in her a spirit that is intelligent, holy, unique, manifold, subtle, agile, clear, unpolluted, distinct, invulnerable, loving, the good, keen, irresistible, beneficent, humane, steadfast, sure, free from anxiety, all-powerful, overseeing all, and penetrating through all spirits, that are intelligent, pure, and altogether subtle. For wisdom is more mobile than any motion. Because of her pureness, she pervades and penetrates all things, for she is a breath of the power of God, and a pure emanation of the glory of the Almighty. Therefore nothing defiled gains entrance into her. For she is a reflection of eternal light, a spotless mirror of the working of God, and an image of His goodness. Although she is but one, she can do all things, and while remaining in herself, she renews all things. In every generation she passes into holy souls, and makes them friends of God and prophets. For God loves nothing so much as the person who lives with wisdom. She is more beautiful than the sun, and excels every constellation of the stars. Compared with the light, she is found to be more radiant, for it is succeeded by the night. But against wisdom, evil does not prevail. Chapter 8. Love for wisdom. Wisdom indispensable to rulers. She reaches mightily from one end of the earth to the other, and she orders all things well. Love for wisdom. I loved her and sought her from my youth. I desired to take her for my bride and became enamored of her beauty. She glorifies her noble birth by living with God, and the Lord of all loves her. For she is an initiate in the knowledge of God, and an associate in His works. If riches are a desirable possession in life, what is richer than wisdom, the active cause of all things? And if understanding is effective, who more than she is, fashioner of what exists? And if anyone loves righteousness, her labors are virtues. For she teaches self-control and prudence, justice and courage. Nothing in life is more profitable for mortals than these. And if anyone longs for wide experience, she knows the things of old and infers the things to come. She understands turns of speech and the solutions of riddles. She has foreknowledge of signs and wonders, and of the outcome of seasons and times. Wisdom indispensable to rulers. Therefore I determined to take her to live with me, knowing that she would give me good counsel and encouragement in cares and grief. Because of her, I shall have glory among the multitudes, and honor in the presence of the elders, though I am young. I shall be found keen in judgment, and in the sight of rulers I shall be admired. When I am silent, they will wait for me, and when I speak, they will give heed. If I speak at greater length, they will put their hands on their mouths. Because of her, I shall have immortality and leave an everlasting remembrance to those who come after me. I shall govern peoples, and nations will be subject to me. Dread monarchs will be afraid of me when they hear of me. Among the people I shall show myself capable and courageous in war. When I enter my house, I shall find rest with her, for companionship with her has no bitterness, and life with her has no pain, but gladness and joy. When I considered these things inwardly and pondered in my heart, that in kinship with wisdom there is immortality, and in friendship with her pure delight, and in the labors of her hands unfailing wealth, and in the experience of her company understanding, and renown in sharing her words. I went about seeking how to get her for myself. As a child, I was naturally gifted, and a good soul fell to my lot. Or rather, being good, I entered an undefiled body. But I perceived that I would not possess wisdom unless God gave her to me, and it was a mark of insight to know whose gift she was. So I appealed to the Lord and implored him, and with my whole heart I said, Chapter 9, Prayer for Wisdom. Prayer for wisdom, O God of my ancestors and Lord of mercy, who have made all things by your word, and by your wisdom have formed humankind, to have dominion over the creatures you have made, and rule the world in holiness and righteousness, and pronounce judgment in uprightness of soul. Give me the wisdom that sits by your throne, and do not reject me from among your children. For I am your servant, the son of your female servant, a man who is weak and short-lived, with little understanding of judgment and laws. For even one who is perfect among humans will be regarded as nothing without the wisdom that comes from you. You have chosen me to be king of your people, and to be judge over your sons and daughters. You have given command to build a temple on your holy mountain, and an altar in the city of your habitation, a copy of the holy tent that you prepared from the beginning. With you is wisdom, she who knows your works and was present when you made the world. She understands what is pleasing in your sight and what is right according to your commandments. Send her forth from the holy heavens and from the throne of your glory. Send her that she may labor at my side, and that I may learn what is pleasing to you. For she knows and understands all things, and she will guide me wisely in my actions, and guard me with her glory. Then my works will be acceptable, and I shall judge your people justly, and shall be worthy of the throne of my Father. For who can learn the counsel of God, or who can discern what the Lord wills? For the reasoning of mortals is worthless, and our designs are likely to fail. For a perishable body weighs down the soul, and this earthy tent burdens the thoughtful mind. We can hardly guess at what is on earth, and what is at hand we find with labor. But who has traced out what is in the heavens? Who has learned your counsel? Unless you have given wisdom, and sent your Holy Spirit from on high. And thus the paths of those on earth were set right, and people were taught what pleases you, and were saved by wisdom. Chapter 10, The Work of Wisdom. Wisdom led the Israelites out of Egypt. The work of wisdom. Wisdom protected the first formed father of the world when he alone had been created. She delivered him from his transgression and gave him strength to rule all things. But when an unrighteous man departed from her in his anger, he perished because in rage he killed his brother. When the earth was flooded because of him, wisdom again saved it, steering the righteous man by a paltry piece of wood. Wisdom also, when the nations in wicked agreement had been put to confusion, recognized the righteous man and preserved him blameless before God, and kept him strong in the face of his compassion for his child. Wisdom rescued a righteous man when the ungodly were perishing. He escaped the fire that descended on the 5 cities. Evidence of their wickedness still remains a continually smoking wasteland plants, bearing fruit that does not ripen, and a pillar of salt, standing as a monument to an unbelieving soul. For because they passed wisdom by, they not only were hindered from recognizing the good, but also left for humankind a reminder of their folly, so that their failures could never go unnoticed. Wisdom rescued from troubles those who served her. When a righteous man fled from his brother's wrath, she guided him on straight paths. She showed him the kingdom of God and gave him knowledge of holy things. She prospered him in his labors and increased the fruit of his toil. When his oppressors were covetous, she stood by him and made him rich. She protected him from his enemies and kept him safe from those who lay in wait for him. In his arduous contest, she declared him victorious so that he might learn that godliness is more powerful than anything else. When a righteous man was sold, wisdom did not desert him, but delivered him from sin. She descended with him into the dungeon, and when he was in prison, she did not leave him until she brought him the scepter of a kingdom and authority over his masters. Those who accused him, she showed to be false, and she gave him everlasting honor. Wisdom led the Israelites out of Egypt, holy people and blameless offspring. Wisdom delivered from a nation of oppressors. She entered the soul of a servant of the Lord and withstood dread kings with wonders and signs. She gave to holy people the reward of their labors. She guided them along a marvelous way and became a shelter to them by day and a starry flame through the night. She brought them over the Red Sea and led them through deep waters, but she drowned their enemies and cast them up from the depth of the sea. Therefore the righteous plundered the ungodly. They sang hymns, O Lord, to your holy name, and praised with one accord. Your defending hand for wisdom opened the mouths of those who were mute and made the tongues of infants speak clearly. Chapter 11. Wisdom led the Israelites through the desert. Punishment of the wicked. God is powerful and merciful. Wisdom led the Israelites through the desert. Wisdom prospered their works by the hand of a holy prophet. They journeyed through an uninhabited wilderness and pitched their tents in untrodden places. They withstood their enemies and fought off their foes. When they were thirsty, they called upon you, and water was given them out of flinty rock, and from hard stone a remedy for their thirst. For through the very things by which their enemies were punished, they themselves received benefit in their need. Instead of the fountain of an ever-flowing river, stirred up and defiled with blood, in rebuke for the decree to kill the infants, you gave them abundant water, unexpectedly showing by their thirst. At that time, how you punished their enemies. For when they were tried, though they were being disciplined in mercy, they learned how the ungodly were tormented when judged in wrath. For you tested them as a parent does in warning, but you examined the ungodly as a stern king does in condemnation. Whether absent or present, they were equally distressed, for a twofold grief possessed them, and a groaning at the memory of what had occurred. For when they heard that through their own punishments the righteous had received benefit, they perceived it was the Lord's doing. For though they had mockingly rejected him, who long before had been cast out and exposed at the end of the events, they marveled at him when they felt thirst in a different way from the righteous. Punishment of the wicked. In return for their foolish and wicked thoughts, which led them astray to worship irrational serpents and worthless animals, you sent upon them a multitude of irrational creatures to punish them, so that they might learn that one is punished by the very things by which one sins. For your all-powerful hand, which created the world out of formless matter, did not lack the means to send upon them a multitude of bears, or bold lions, or newly created unknown beasts full of rage, or such as breathe out fiery breath, or belch forth a thick pall of smoke, or flash terrible sparks from their eyes. Not only could the harm they did destroy people, but the mere sight of them could kill by fright. Even apart from these, people could fall at a single breath when pursued by justice, and scattered by the breath of your power. But you have arranged all things by measure and number and weight. God is powerful and merciful, for it is always in your power to show great strength, and who can withstand the might of your arm? Because the whole world before you is like a speck that tips the scales, and like a drop of morning dew that falls on the ground. But you are merciful to all, for you can do all things, and you overlook people's sins so that they may repent. For you love all things that exist, and detest none of the things that you have made, for you would not have formed anything if you had hated it. How would anything have endured if you had not willed it? Or how would anything not called forth by you have been preserved? You spare all things, for they are yours, O Lord, you who love the living. Chapter 12. The sins of the Canaanites. God is sovereign. God's lessons for Israel. The punishment of the Egyptians. For your immortal spirit is in all things. Therefore you correct little by little those who trespass, and you remind and warn them of the things through which they sin, so that they may be freed from wickedness and put their trust in you, O Lord. The sins of the Canaanites. Those who lived long ago in your holy land you hated for their detestable practices, their works of sorcery and unholy rites, their merciless slaughter of children, and their sacrificial feasting on human flesh and blood. These initiates from the midst of a bloody revelry. These parents who murder helpless lives you willed to destroy by the hands of our ancestors, so that the land most precious of all to you might receive a worthy colony of the children of God. But even these you spared, since they were but mortals, and sent wasps as forerunners of your army to destroy them little by little, though you were not unable to give the ungodly into the hands of the righteous in battle, or to destroy them at one blow by dread wild animals or your stern word. But judging them little by little, you gave them an opportunity to repent, though you were not unaware that their origin was evil and their wickedness inborn, and that their way of thinking would never change. For their offspring were accursed from the beginning, and it was not through fear of anyone that you left them unpunished for their sins. God is sovereign. For who will say, "What have you done?" or will resist your judgment? Who will accuse you for the destruction of nations that you made? Or who will come before you to plead as an advocate for the unrighteous? For neither is there any God besides you, whose care is for all people to whom you should prove that you have not judged unjustly. Nor can any king or monarch confront you about those whom you have punished. You are righteous, and you rule all things righteously, deeming it alien to your power to condemn anyone who does not deserve to be punished. For your strength is the source of righteousness, and your sovereignty over all causes you to spare all. For you show your strength when people doubt the completeness of your power, and you rebuke any insolence among those who know it. Although you are sovereign in strength, you judge fairly, and with great forbearance you govern us, for you have power to act whenever you choose. God's lessons for Israel. Through such works you have taught your people that the righteous must be kind, and you have filled your children with good hope, because you give repentance for sins. For if you punished with such great care and indulgence the enemies of your children and those deserving of death, granting them time and opportunity to give up their wickedness, with what strictness you have judged your children to, whose ancestors you gave oaths and covenants full of good promises. So while chastening us, you scourge our enemies 10,000 times, more so that when we judge, we may meditate upon your goodness, and when we are judged, we may expect mercy. The punishment of the Egyptians. Therefore those who lived unrighteously in a life of folly, you tormented through their own abominations. For they went far astray on the paths of error, accepting as gods those animals that even their enemies despised. They were deceived like foolish infants. Therefore, as though to children who cannot reason, you sent your judgment to mock them. But those who have not heeded the warning of mild rebukes will experience the deserved judgment of God. For when in their suffering they became incensed at those creatures that they had thought to be gods, being punished by means of them, they saw and recognized as the true God, the one whom they had before refused to know. Therefore the utmost condemnation came upon them. Chapter 13, the foolishness of nature worship. The foolishness of idolatry. The foolishness of nature worship. For all people who were ignorant of God were foolish by nature, and they were unable from the good things that are seen to know the one who exists. Nor did they recognize the artisan while paying heed to his works. But they supposed that either fire or wind or swift air, or the circle of the stars, or turbulent water, or the luminaries of heaven were the gods that rule the world. If through delight in the beauty of these things people assume them to be gods, let them know how much better than these is their Lord, for the author of beauty created them. And if people were amazed at their power and working, let them perceive from them how much more powerful is the one who formed them. For from the greatness and beauty of created things comes a corresponding perception of their Creator. Yet these people are little to be blamed for. Perhaps they go astray while seeking God and desiring to find Him. For while they live among His works, they keep searching and trust in what they see, because the things that are seen are beautiful. Yet again, not even they are to be excused, for if they had the power to know so much that they could investigate the world, how did they not more quickly find the Lord of these things? The foolishness of idolatry. But miserable with their hopes set on dead things are those who give the name gods to the works of human hands, gold and silver fashioned with skill, and likenesses of animals, or a useless stone, the work of an ancient hand. A skilled woodcutter may saw down a tree easy to handle, and skillfully strip off all its bark, and then with pleasing workmanship make a useful vessel that serves life's needs, and burn the cast-off pieces of his work, to prepare his food and eat his fill. But a cast-off piece from among them, useful for nothing, a stick crooked and full of knots, he takes and carves with care in his leisure, and shapes it with skill gained in idleness. He forms it in the likeness of a human being, or makes it like some worthless animal, giving it a coat of red paint, and coloring its surface red, and covering every blemish in it with paint. Then he makes a suitable niche for it, and sets it in the wall, and fastens it there with iron. He takes thought for it, so that it may not fall, because he knows that it cannot help itself, for it is only an image, and has need of help. When he prays about possessions, and his marriage, and children, he is not ashamed to address a lifeless thing. For health, he appeals to a thing that is weak. For life, he prays to a thing that is dead. For aid, he entreats a thing that is utterly inexperienced. For a prosperous journey, a thing that cannot take a step. For money-making and work and success with his hands, he asks strength of a thing whose hands have no strength. Chapter 14. Folly of a navigator praying to an idol. The origin and evils of idolatry. Folly of a navigator praying to an idol. Again, one preparing to sail and about to voyage over raging waves calls upon a piece of wood more fragile than the ship that carries him. For it was desire for gain that planned that vessel, and wisdom was the artisan who built it. But it is your providence, O Father, that steers its course, because you have given it a path in the sea and a safe way through the waves, showing that you can save from every danger, so that even a person who lacks skill may put to sea. It is your will that works of your wisdom should not be without effect. Therefore people trust their lives even to the smallest piece of wood, and passing through the billows on a raft they come safely to land. For even in the beginning, when arrogant giants were perishing, the hope of the world took refuge on a raft, and guided by your hand, left to the world the seed of a new generation. For blessed is the wood by which righteousness comes. But the idol made with hands is accursed. And so is the one who made it, he for having made it, and the perishable thing, because it was named a god. For equally hateful to God are the ungodly, and their ungodliness for what was done will be punished together with the one who did it. Therefore there will be a visitation also upon the idols of the nations, because though part of what God created, they became an abomination, stumbling blocks for human souls, and a trap for the feet of the foolish. The origin and evils of idolatry. For the idea of making idols was the beginning of sexual immorality, and the invention of them was the corruption of life, for they did not exist from he beginning, nor will they last forever. For through human vanity they entered the world, and therefore their speedy end has been planned. For a father consumed with grief at an untimely bereavement made an image of his child who had been suddenly taken from him. He now honored as a god what was once a dead human being, and handed on to his dependents secret rites and initiations. Then the ungodly custom grown strong with time was kept as a law, and at the command of monarchs carved images were worshipped. When people could not honor monarchs in their presence since they lived at a distance, they imagined their appearance far away and made a visible image of the king whom they honored, so that by their zeal they might flatter the absent one as though present. Then the ambition of the artisan impelled even those who did not know the king to intensify their worship. For he, perhaps wishing to please his rulers skillfully, forced the likeness to take more beautiful form, and the multitude attracted by the charm of his work now regarded as an object of worship the one whom shortly before they had honored as a human. And this became a hidden trap for humankind, because people in bondage to misfortune or to royal authority bestowed on objects of stone or wood the name that ought not to be shared. Then it was not enough for them to err about the knowledge of God, but though living in great strife due to ignorance, they call such great evils peace. For whether they kill children in their initiations, or celebrate secret mysteries, or hold frenzied revels with strange customs, they no longer keep either their lives or their marriages pure. But they either treacherously kill one another, or grieve one another by adultery, and all is a raging riot of blood and murder, theft and deceit, corruption, faithlessness, tumult, perjury, confusion over what is good, forgetfulness of favors, defiling of souls, sexual perversion, disorder in marriages, adultery, and debauchery. For the worship of idols not to be named is the beginning and cause and end of every evil. For their worshippers either rave in exultation or prophesy lies, or live unrighteously or readily commit perjury. For because they trust in lifeless idols, they swear wicked oaths and expect to suffer no harm. But just penalties will overtake them on 2 counts, because they thought wrongly about God in devoting themselves to idols, and because in deceit they swore unrighteously through contempt for holiness. For it is not the power of the things by which people swear, but the just penalty for those who sin that always pursues the transgression of the unrighteous. Chapter 15. Benefits of worshiping the true God. The foolishness of worshiping clay idols, serpents in the desert. Benefits of worshiping the true God. But you, our God, are kind, and true patient, and ruling all things in mercy. For even if we sin, we are yours, knowing your power. But we will not sin, because we know that you acknowledge us as yours. For to know you is complete righteousness, and to know your power is the root of immortality. For neither has the evil intent of human art misled us, nor the fruitless toil of painters a figure stained with varied colors, whose appearance arouses yearning in fools, so that they desire the lifeless form of a dead image. Lovers of evil things, and fit for such objects of hope, are those who either make or desire or worship them. The foolishness of worshiping clay idols. A potter kneads the soft earth and laboriously molds each vessel for our service, fashioning out of the same clay. Both the vessels that serve clean uses and those for contrary uses making all alike, but which shall be the use of each of them, the worker in clay decides. With misspent toil, these workers form a futile god from the same clay. These mortals who were made of earth a short time before and after a little while, go to the earth from which all mortals are taken, when the time comes to return the souls that were borrowed. But the workers are not concerned that mortals are destined to die, or that their life is brief, but they compete with workers in gold and silver, and imitate workers in copper, and they count it a glorious thing to mold counterfeit gods. Their heart is ashes, their hope is cheaper than dirt, and their lives are of less worth than clay, because they failed to know the one who formed them and inspired them with active souls and breathed a living spirit into them. But they considered our existence an idle game and life a festival held for profit. For they say one must get money however one can, even by base means. For these persons, more than all others, know that they sin when they make from earthy matter fragile vessels and carved images. But most foolish and more miserable than an infant are all the enemies who oppressed your people. For they thought that all the idols of the nations were gods, though these have neither the use of their eyes to see with, nor nostrils with which to draw breath, nor ears with which to hear, nor fingers to feel with, and their feet are of no use for walking. For a human made them, and one whose spirit is borrowed formed them, for none can form gods that are like themselves. People are mortal, and what they make with lawless hands is dead. For they are better than the objects they worship, since they have life. But the idols never had. Serpents in the desert. Moreover, they worship even the most hateful animals, which are worse than all others when judged by their lack of intelligence, and even as animals, they are not so beautiful in appearance that one would desire them. But they have escaped both the praise of God and His blessing. Chapter 16. Disastrous storms strike Egypt. The Israelites receive manna. Therefore, those people were deservedly punished through such creatures, and were tormented by a multitude of animals. Instead of this punishment, you showed kindness to your people, and you prepared quails to eat, a delicacy to satisfy the desire of appetite, in order that those people, when they desired food, might lose the least remnant of appetite, because of the odious creatures sent to them. While your people, after suffering want a short time, might partake of delicacies. For it was necessary that upon those oppressors inescapable want should come, while to these others it was merely shown how their enemies were being tormented. For when the terrible rage of wild animals came upon your people, and they were being destroyed by the bites of writhing serpents, your wrath did not continue to the end. They were troubled for a little while as a warning, and received a symbol of deliverance to remind them of your law's command. For the one who turned toward it was saved not by the thing that was beheld, but by you, the Savior of all. And by this also you convinced our enemies that it is you who deliver from every evil. For they were killed by the bites of locusts and flies, and no healing was found for them, because they deserved to be punished by such things. But your children were not conquered, even by the fangs of venomous serpents. For your mercy came to their help and healed them. To remind them of your oracles, they were bitten, and then were quickly delivered, so that they would not fall into deep forgetfulness and become unresponsive to your kindness. For neither herb nor poultice cured them, but it was your word, O Lord, that heals all people. For you have power over life and death. You lead mortals down to the gates of Hades and back again. A person in wickedness kills another, but cannot bring back the departed spirit or set free the imprisoned soul. Disastrous storms strike Egypt. To escape from your hand is impossible for the ungodly, refusing to know you were flogged by the strength of your arm, pursued by unusual rains and hail and relentless storms, and utterly consumed by fire. For most incredible of all, in water, which quenches all things. The fire had still greater effect, for the universe defends the righteous. At one time, the flame was restrained, so that it might not consume the creatures sent against the ungodly, but that seeing this, they might know that they were being pursued by the judgment of God. And at another time, even in the midst of water, it burned more intensely than fire to destroy the crops of the unrighteous land. The Israelites received manna. Instead of these things, you gave your people food of angels, and without their toil you supplied them from heaven with bread ready to eat, providing every pleasure and suited to every taste. For your sustenance manifested your sweetness toward your children, and the bread ministering to the desire of the one who took it was changed to suit everyone's liking. Snow and ice withstood fire without melting, so that they might know that the crops of their enemies were being destroyed by the fire that blazed in the hail and flashed in the showers of rain, whereas the fire, in order that the righteous might be fed, even forgot its native power. For creation, serving you who made it, exerts itself to punish the unrighteous, and in kindness relaxes on behalf of those who trust in you. Therefore at that time also changed into all forms. It served your all-nourishing bounty, according to the desire of those who had need, so that your children whom you loved, O Lord, might learn that it is not the production of crops that feeds humankind, but that your word sustains those who trust in you. For what was not destroyed by fire was melted when simply warmed by a fleeting ray of the sun, to make it known that one must rise before the sun to give you thanks, and must pray to you at the dawning of the light. For the hope of an ungrateful person will melt like wintry frost and flow away like wastewater. Chapter 17. Terror strikes the Egyptians at night. Terror strikes the Egyptians at night. Great are your judgments and hard to describe. Therefore uninstructed souls have gone astray. For when lawless people supposed that they held the holy nation in their power, they themselves lay as captives of darkness and prisoners of long night, shut in under their roofs, exiles from eternal providence. For thinking that in their secret sins they were unobserved behind a dark curtain of forgetfulness, they were scattered terribly alarmed and appalled by specters. For not even the inner chamber that held them protected them from fear, but terrifying sounds rang out around them, and dismal phantoms with gloomy faces appeared. And no power of fire was able to give light, nor did the brilliant flames of the stars avail to illumine that hateful night. Nothing was shining through to them, except a dreadful self-kindled fire, and in terror they deemed the things that they saw to be worse than that unseen appearance. The delusions of their magic art lay humbled, and their boasted wisdom was scornfully rebuked. For those who promised to drive off the fears and disorders of a sick soul were sick themselves with ridiculous fear. For even if nothing disturbing frightened them, yet scared by the passing of wild animals and the hissing of snakes, they perished in trembling fear, refusing to look even at the air, though it nowhere could be avoided. For wickedness is a cowardly thing, condemned by its own testimony. Distressed by conscience, it has always exaggerated the difficulties. For fear is nothing but a giving up of the helps that come from reason and hope. Being weaker prefers ignorance of what causes the torment. But throughout the night, which was really powerless, and which came upon them from the recesses of powerless Hades, they all slept the same sleep, and now were driven by monstrous specters, and now were paralyzed by their soul's surrender, for sudden and unexpected fear overwhelmed them, and whoever was there fell down, and thus was kept shut up in a prison not made of iron. For whether they were farmers, or shepherds, or workers who toiled in the wilderness, they were seized and endured the inescapable fate, for with one chain of darkness they all were bound. Whether there came a whistling wind, or a melodious sound of birds in wide-spreading branches, or the rhythm of violently rushing water, or the harsh crash of rocks hurled down, or the unseen running of leaping animals, or the sound of the most savage roaring beasts, or an echo thrown back from a hollow of the mountains, it paralyzed them with terror. For the whole world was illumined with brilliant light, and went about its work unhindered, while over those people alone heavy night was spread an image of the darkness that was destined to receive them. But still heavier than darkness were they to themselves. Chapter 18. Light shines on the Israelites. The death of the Egyptian firstborn. Threat of annihilation in the desert. Light shines on the Israelites. But for your holy ones there was very great light. Their enemies heard their voices, but did not see their forms, and counted them happy for not having suffered, and were thankful that your holy ones, though previously wronged, were doing them no injury. And they begged their pardon for having been at variance with them. Therefore you provided a flaming pillar of fire as a guide for your people's unknown journey, and a harmless sun for their glorious wandering. For their enemies deserved to be deprived of light and imprisoned in darkness, those who had kept your children imprisoned, through whom the imperishable light of the law was to be given to the world. The death of the Egyptian firstborn, when they had resolved to kill the infants of your holy ones, and one child had been abandoned and rescued you in punishment, took away a multitude of their children, and you destroyed them altogether by a mighty flood. That night was made known beforehand to our ancestors, so that they might rejoice in sure knowledge of the oaths in which they trusted. The deliverance of the righteous and the destruction of their enemies were expected by your people. For by the same means by which you punished our enemies, you called us to yourself and glorified us. For in secret the holy children of good people offered sacrifices, and with one accord agreed to the divine law, so that the holy ones would share alike the same things, both blessings and dangers. And already they were singing the praises of the ancestors. But the discordant cry of their enemies echoed back, and their piteous lament for their children was spread abroad. The slave was punished with the same penalty as the master, and the commoner suffered the same loss as the king. And they all together, by the one form of death, had corpses too many to count. For the living were not sufficient even to bury them, since in one instant their most valued children had been destroyed. For though they had disbelieved everything because of their magic arts, yet when their firstborn were destroyed, they acknowledged your people to be God's child. For while gentle silence enveloped all things, and night in its swift course was now half gone, your all-powerful word leaped from heaven, from the royal throne into the midst of the land that was doomed. A stern warrior carrying the sharp sword of your authentic command, and stood and filled all things with death, and touched heaven while standing on the earth. Then at once apparitions and dreadful dreams greatly troubled them, and unexpected fears assailed them, and one here and another there, hurled down half dead, made known why they were dying for the dreams that disturbed them, forewarned them of this, so that they might not perish without knowing why they suffered. Threat of annihilation in the desert. The experience of death touched also the righteous, and a plague came upon the multitude in the desert. But the wrath did not long continue, for a blameless man was quick to act as their champion. He brought forward the shield of his ministry, prayer and propitiation by incense. He withstood the anger and put an end to the disaster, showing that he was your servant. He conquered the wrath, not by strength of body, not by force of arms, but by his word. He subdued the avenger, appealing to the oaths and covenants given to our ancestors. For when the dead had already fallen on one another in heaps, he intervened and held back the assault and cut off its way to the living. For on his long robe the whole world was depicted, and the glories of the ancestors were engraved on the 4 rows of stones, and your majesty was on the diadem upon his head. To these the destroyer yielded these he feared, for merely to test the wrath was enough. Chapter 19. The Red Sea. God guides and protects his people. The punishment of the Egyptians. A new harmony in nature. Conclusion. The Red Sea. But the ungodly were assailed to the end by pitiless anger. For God knew in advance even their future actions, how though they themselves had permitted your people to depart and hastily sent them out, they would change their minds and pursue them. For while they were still engaged in mourning and were lamenting at the graves of their dead, they reached another foolish decision and pursued as fugitives those whom they had begged and compelled to leave. For the fate they deserved drew them on to this end and made them forget what had happened, in order that they might fill up the punishment that their torment still lacked, and that your people might experience an incredible journey. but they themselves might meet a strange death. God guides and protects his people, for the whole creation in its nature was fashioned anew, complying with your commands, so that your children might be kept unharmed. The cloud was seen overshadowing the camp in dry land, emerging where water had stood before an unhindered way out of the Red Sea, and a grassy plain out of the raging waves, where those protected by your hand passed through as one nation after gazing on marvelous wonders. For they ranged like horses and leaped like lambs, praising you, O Lord, who delivered them. For they still recalled the events of their sojourn, how instead of producing animals, the earth brought forth gnats, and instead of fish, the rivers spewed out vast numbers of frogs. Afterward they saw also a new kind of bird, when desire led them to ask for luxurious food, for to give them relief quails came up from the sea. The punishment of the Egyptians. The punishments did not come upon the sinners without prior signs in the violence of thunder. For they justly suffered because of their wicked acts, for they practiced a more bitter hatred of strangers. Others had refused to receive strangers when they came to them. But these made slaves of guests who were their benefactors. And not only so, but while punishment of some sort will come upon the former, for having received strangers with hostility, the latter having first received them with festal celebrations afterward, afflicted with terrible sufferings those who had already shared the same rights. They were stricken also with loss of sight, just as were those at the door of the righteous man. And surrounded by yawning darkness, all of them tried to find the way through their own doors. A new harmony in nature. For the elements changed places with one another, as on a harp. The notes vary the nature of the rhythm, while each note remains the same. This may be clearly inferred from the sight of what took place. For land animals were transformed into water creatures, and creatures that swim moved over to the land. Fire, even in water, retained its normal power, and water forgot its fire-quenching nature. Flames, on the contrary, failed to consume the flesh of perishable creatures that walked among them, nor did they melt the crystalline, quick-melting kind of heavenly food. And that is the fullness of what has been hidden inside this mysterious book for thousands of years. If you have truly been still and listened to every word just now, you will realize something. This anonymous author was not trying to soothe us with hollow spiritual comfort. He stripped reality bare and threw the truth directly in our faces. Among the countless mysteries exposed throughout the 19 chapters of the book, from Sophia, the wisdom of God, to the shocking prophecies, there is one theme that haunts me more than all the rest. It does not belong to lofty theological systems. It strikes directly at the most primal fear of anyone living in this world. It is a life and death question. Is death really the end? When I began decoding the Wisdom of Solomon file, I assumed I would be reading philosophies about how to govern a nation or dry moral lessons. But I was wrong. What haunted me and made me stop right from the opening pages was the way this book exposes the truth about death. You see, most of humanity, and especially the wicked people described in chapter 2 of the book, cling tightly to one extremely safe material belief. The heart stops beating, the brain is deprived of oxygen, the body decomposes 6 feet under the ground, and everything ends. They believe death is a full stop, a complete extinction. And because death is the end, they give themselves the right to live selfishly, cruelly, and trample others in order to enjoy pleasure. But the Wisdom of Solomon delivers a thunderous blow against that practical way of thinking. This book declares a cold truth: the physical death that human eyes can see is actually only a visual trap, an illusion. Unlike the shadowy uncertainty about the underworld or Sheol in older Old Testament writings, the Wisdom of Solomon sketches an extremely clear map of the world beyond. The author affirms that human consciousness does not decompose along with the body. In chapter 3, from verse 1 to verse 3, the King James Version records it this way: "But the souls of the righteous are in the hand of God." and there shall no torment touch them. In the sight of the unwise, they seem to die, and their departure is taken for misery. But they are in peace. Below is the rewritten version. Instead of using the textbook-like structure of listing layer 1, layer 2, layer 3, I have used connecting sentences based on psychological progression to create a continuous flow. This way it feels like a storyteller peeling back each layer of truth, taking the audience from one shock to the next. Audio note. Pause for 2 seconds so the audience can absorb the biblical quote. Then, the voiceover shifts to a faster pace with the tone of an investigative analysis. With only 3 short verses, this passage delivers a fatal blow to the entire worldview of humanity. The first thing this book does is shatter the deception of sight. Pay attention to one extremely valuable phrase in the sight of the unwise. The author is pointing directly at us. When you stand beside the sickbed of a good person who has just passed away, or when you witness an upright person being murdered, your physical eyes send a signal to your brain saying this is a tragedy. This is the cruelty of fate. This is a heartbreaking end. But what does the author say? It is only an optical illusion. Their death only seems like defeat from the limited viewpoint of human beings. But from the viewpoint of the greater universe, through the lens of God, it is a rescue. God has intervened to draw their souls out of a material world that is becoming more and more corrupt and sinful. And once that illusion has been exposed, the book continues to reveal the final limit of evil. Remember the statement, "There shall no torment touch them." This declaration appears immediately after chapter 2, where the wicked have just sworn to torment and kill the righteous man in the most humiliating way. What is the harsh truth here? The wicked can crush your body. Disease can ravage your cells, but their final boundary stops at the biological structure. They have no access to the soul. At the very moment the heartbeat stops, every power of the wicked and every pain of the body is immediately neutralized. Your soul has been transferred into the hand of God, an absolutely secure space that no dark force can ever break into. This absolute protection completely changes the way we face grief and loss. Why do good people often die young? Why do honest people often face terrible calamities? That is the painful question that has caused so many people to give up and lose their faith. But the wisdom of Solomon gives a cold yet profound answer. Physical lifespan is not the measure of blessing. God does not measure the success of a life by the number of candles on a birthday cake. There are people who live to be 90 years old, yet their souls rotted and died at the age of 30 because of greed and cruelty. On the other hand, there are people who live only 20 or 30 years on this earth, yet they have completed God's moral test with excellence. When their souls have reached purity, forcing them to remain in this muddy world, no longer has meaning. Their death is actually the opening of another life. So if today you are still breathing, pause for a moment and look at how we are operating our lives. We spend too much energy on meaningless fears. We fear losing money, losing position, and being judged by others. Many people are even willing to trample colleagues, deceive customers, or turn their backs on their own families just to gather a little more material wealth. But if the wisdom of Solomon is right, if this world is truly only a short-term moral examination room, then all those calculations are a losing investment. When your electrocardiogram becomes a flat line, every savings account, every luxury car, and every glamorous title is immediately rendered useless. The only thing you can pack and carry through that doorway is your soul. A soul weighed down by sin, or a soul made clean that depends entirely on what you do today. So live decently. Play by the rules. Do not sell your conscience cheaply for a few short-term benefits in front of you. Treat those weaker than you with kindness. Be generous toward those who have hurt you. And most importantly, live honestly before yourself. The Nephilim file traces of the Age of Giants. After removing the mask from the anonymous author, the wisdom of Solomon continues to reveal an extremely shocking detail that very few people would expect. It is only half a sentence hidden inside chapter 14. But if you have enough knowledge to examine this detail through the lens of archaeology and ancient texts, it immediately explodes into a massive file about a world erased before the Great Flood. It is verse 6 in chapter 14. The respected NRSV UE Bible translation records it this way: "For even in the beginning, when arrogant giants were being destroyed, the hope of the world took refuge on a raft, and guided by your hand, left to the world the seed of a new generation." According to the commentary materials of the United States Conference of Catholic Bishops, or USCCB, the hope of the world taking refuge on the raft here is none other than Noah and the historic rescue vessel. But you know what? The shocking point of this sentence does not lie in Noah at all. Anyone who has ever opened the Bible knows that Noah is the central figure of the flood. What turns verse 6 into a phenomenon is the way the author mentions the arrogant giants. He does not use this phrase as a decorative metaphor. He refers to it as an obvious historical event. There was once a group of arrogant giants. They were destroyed, and God had to use a vessel to preserve the remaining part of humanity. With only one brief sentence, this learned author confirms that the tradition of giant hybrid beings before the Great Flood was part of real historical memory. To understand the seriousness of this detail, we have to rewind time and reopen Genesis chapter 6, one of the most difficult and controversial passages in the entire Hebrew Bible. Genesis chapter 6 says very briefly, "When mankind multiplied, the sons of God saw that the daughters of men were beautiful and took them as wives. This union produced the Nephilim, those called the heroes of old, the men of renown." The brevity of Genesis has created a debate lasting more than 2,000 years. Who were the sons of God? What exactly were the Nephilim? Why did their appearance bring such violence that God had to reset the entire earth with water? Mainstream scripture says very little. But when you step into Jewish texts from the Second Temple period, especially the Book of Enoch, this file is thrown wide open. The Book of the Watchers section in Enoch records the matter in extreme detail. A group of angels known as the Watchers defected. They abandoned their stations in heaven, descended onto Mount Hermon, joined themselves to human women, and produced a race of giants. These giants devoured everything, ravaged the earth, spread extreme violence, and destroyed the ecosystem, forcing God to intervene. And if you think Enoch is only mythology, then look at the Dead Sea Scrolls found in the caves of Qumran. Their archaeologists uncovered fragments of Aramaic manuscripts labeled 4Q530 and 4Q531. Its name is the Book of Giants. This book even gives the names of giants such as Ohia and Hahia figures, who dreamed of the bloody judgment descending upon them. Now place these three layers of text beside one another. Genesis gives the core framework: fallen angels, Nephilim, violence, and the flood. The Dead Sea Scrolls and the Book of Enoch provide the detailed report about the crimes and identity of this race. And wisdom of Solomon. Chapter 14, verse 6 functions as a confirming link. This raises a key question. Why would an elite Jewish intellectual living in the splendid city of Alexandria and absorbing the highest Greek philosophy insert the giants into a theological text discussing the providence of God? The answer lies in a brilliant comparison involving pieces of wood. Look at the structure of chapter 14. The author is discussing mankind's contradiction in relation to wood. He says that God used pieces of wood, the vessel of Noah, to save humanity from destruction. And yet, human beings then used those same pieces of wood, carved them into lifeless idols, knelt before them, and betrayed the Creator. The author places Noah between those two images. It is the same kind of material, but one side serves salvation, while the other serves blindness. And in that picture, the giants do not appear in order to frighten the audience with their physical height. They represent a core moral principle. When power produces arrogance, when physical strength is separated from righteousness, and when a civilization relies on force to break the order of God, destruction becomes unavoidable. We can see that controversial texts, like the Wisdom of Solomon, sometimes become the very key that preserves fragments of memory that traditional scripture has abbreviated. Only half of one short sentence when arrogant giants were being destroyed is enough to connect Alexandria, the caves of Qumran, and Mount Hermon together. It exposes a terrifying memory of the darkest age of humanity when the human gene line was polluted. Giant strength came together with extreme corruption. And God could only preserve the future by clinging to one righteous man, Noah. And in the end, the greatest lesson that wisdom, chapter 14, verse 6 wants to tell us, has never been about the size of the giants. It is about us. Today, the greatness of humanity does not lie in how enormous our strength is or how massive the technological empires we build become, because power without reverence for God is still only arrogant giants waiting for the day they are swept away. True survival sometimes is simply the act of preserving righteousness, like stepping onto a fragile wooden raft in the middle of the great flood and trusting completely in the guiding hand of the Creator. The chapter 14 file secret rituals and the decay of the ancient elite. If the detail about the Nephilim giants at the beginning of chapter 14 already made you shudder, then prepare yourself. Because immediately after that, the author of the book makes a sharp turn, pushing the entire discussion into a hidden corner that is far darker and far more frightening. He is no longer speaking about prehistoric beings. He aims directly at human beings themselves, exposing the origin of corruption when mankind begins to worship the things made by its own hands. And suddenly, in verse 23, he delivers a direct, cold, and devastating indictment. Listen carefully to how the RSVUE and the USCCB record wisdom, chapter 14, verse 23. For they kill children in their initiations, or celebrate secret mysteries, or hold frenzied revels with strange customs. Even the classic King James Bible of 1611 uses even stronger language, for whilst they slew their children in sacrifices, or used secret ceremonies, or made revelings of strange rites. This is not an ordinary religious complaint. This is a powerful first strike. The author of Wisdom is tearing open the velvet curtain that hides the consequences of idolatry. He is telling us that the problem does not stop with a group of people bowing before a stone or a golden statue. The real problem lies in what happens behind the closed doors of those temples. Child sacrifice, secret rituals, frenzied feasts. And after that comes a domino effect of destruction, murder, adultery, deception, and the complete collapse of the foundation of the family. Now, let us break down one extremely important keyword in this verse, mysteries meaning secret rituals. If you think with the mind of a modern person, you may assume that mysteries simply means something strange or supernatural. But in the ancient Greco-Roman world, it had a very practical meaning. According to materials from the Metropolitan Museum of Art, mystery cults were organizations that existed alongside public religion. You can understand them almost like VIP secret societies. They had an absolute law of silence. They had their own symbols. They had initiation rites reserved only for insiders, along with promises of power protection and life after death. When the author of Wisdom mentions this word, he is aiming directly at a reality happening right before his eyes in Alexandria. People could go to public temples by day, but at night they entered secret societies, joined depraved religious feasts, and participated in rituals that outsiders were never allowed to know. And the most horrifying detail is this: the killing of children in ritual. This connects completely with the terrifying memory preserved in the Hebrew Bible. Books such as Leviticus chapter 18 and 2 Kings fiercely condemn the ancient practice of throwing children into the fire as sacrifices to the god Molech, by gathering all three elements into one sentence. Child sacrifice, secret rituals, and frenzied revelry. The author wants to expose the peak of corruption. When human beings place their faith in the wrong place, they can become so deranged that they sacrifice the lives of innocent children to serve their own religious ambition. However, when making a serious documentary, we must keep a cool head and absolute historical accuracy. Do not rush to turn this sentence into a modern conspiracy theory, such as every secret society of today's elite aristocrats or tech billionaires is secretly drinking children's blood. The ancient world truly did have famous secret cults, such as the Eleusinian Mysteries or the cult of Isis. But modern archaeological research indicates that human sacrifice was not a widespread practice throughout the entire Greco-Roman world at that time. So why did the author write this? Because he was not a field reporter compiling statistics. He was a theologian, a guardian standing at the gate protecting the Jewish diaspora from assimilation. He looked directly at the nature of those secret cults and sketched out an indictment with 4 clear layers. The material layer, human beings take wood, stone, and gold and make an image. The psychological layer, they begin to assign power to that lifeless object, allowing fear and greed to control them. The ritual layer, as ambition increases, they begin to create secret initiations, uncontrolled revelries, and at the extreme point, blood crime. And finally, the social layer, as the inevitable consequence shown in verses 24 through 26, life is devalued. Marriage is shattered, adultery, theft, and hatred spread everywhere. That is why chapter 14, verse 23 becomes a psychological explosion for anyone reading it today. It strips away the glamorous covering of civilizations. It says plainly that a wrong understanding of God will certainly lead to moral corruption. The modern world may no longer carve wooden or stone statues and bow before them. But let us be honest, we are still building massive idols called power, money, personal fame, and technology. When a group of people, whether political elites or powerful technology corporations, separates itself from the oversight of public morality, hides behind closed networks and secret agreements in order to pursue ambition, society always has reason to feel a chill. Wisdom. Chapter 14, verse 23 is the warning that religion or any system of power, once separated from the holiness of the Creator, can become the perfect cover for hiding the most horrifying crimes. And perhaps that is the deepest message that the anonymous author in Alexandria wanted to leave for us. Behind the radiant beauty of civilization, behind the closed doors of the elite, there is only one life or death question that must be asked. The system you are following, is it leading you closer to the light of truth? Or is it slowly pulling you into a darkness where conscience, family, and even the lives of innocent people are offered as sacrifices? And if you think that life or death question was meant only for people who lived 2,000 years ago, you are mistaken. The portrait of those who hold power in the shadows, which the author has just exposed, was not buried beneath the dust of Alexandria. It has crossed the boundary of time, evolved, and been reborn under far more sophisticated disguises. Because when we hear phrases such as elite secret societies, rituals in the dark, or hidden powers standing above the law, there is one name your mind will almost certainly produce automatically. A name that has become an obsession of pop culture, global conspiracy theories, and modern political power structures, the Illuminati. You may ask yourself, wait, the Wisdom of Solomon was written more than 2,000 years ago. So what does it have to do with the Illuminati, an organization that only appeared in Europe in the 18th century? The answer is the connection here is not in time, it is in the psychological archetype. Look at the real history. The Bavarian Illuminati was founded by Adam Weishaupt in 1776, right in the middle of the Enlightenment. Their original goals were proclaimed in language that sounded extremely noble: to oppose superstition, prevent the abuse of state power, and remove the influence of religion from public life. They wrapped themselves in the cloak of knowledge and called themselves the Illuminated. It sounds wonderful, does it not? It sounds almost exactly like the way today's tech billionaires and global financial elites promise to use AI, biotechnology, and non-governmental organizations to save the world. But look at how they actually operated. To enter Weishaupt's organization, you had to pass through secret initiation rites. You had to swear absolute silence with your life. The organization was divided into extremely strict degrees, where those at the bottom worked with their heads down, but never knew the true identities of those pulling the strings at the top of the pyramid. Through that structure, they quietly recruited aristocrats, scholars, the most brilliant minds, and the hands that held both financial and political power across Europe. And this is exactly the point that makes the wisdom of Solomon a blaring alarm for our society today. Do you think modern society with the internet and social media is too transparent for secret sacrificial cults like those of the ancient world to exist? Do not be naive. Today's secret rituals do not necessarily have to take place in candlelit caves. They happen behind the closed doors of World Economic Forums, in the board meetings of trillion-dollar technology corporations, and inside non-disclosure agreements, or ND, as that hide the algorithms manipulating the behavior of billions of people. They do not carve stone idols and bow down before them. Their idols today are data control and absolute power. And exactly as the author of Wisdom accused in chapter 14, when a group of elites declares itself enlightened, separating itself from the oversight of public morality, the lives of innocent people immediately become expendable pawns. Modern blood sacrifices do not use daggers. They take the form of economic crises arranged to absorb wealth. Brutal proxy wars, toxic chemicals legalized within the food chain, and the systematic destruction of the traditional family foundation. All of it is wrapped in the beautiful packaging of human progress. The nature of powerful secret societies has never changed. Once they reject the light of God and crown themselves as gods, they will always demand sacrifices. Society today is not safer than the age of the wisdom of Solomon. In fact, it is thousands of times more dangerous because evil has now learned how to wear a suit tie, a necktie, and smile on national television. The chapter 17, File the Prison Without Bars and the Attack on the Mind. After exposing the corruption of elite secret societies, the book pulls us back to the greatest historical event of the Jewish people, the Exodus from Egypt. But this anonymous author does not choose to retell the loud plagues such as water turning into blood or hail mixed with fire. He aims directly at the 9th plague. A plague that was completely silent, yet the most haunting of all 3 days, swallowed in darkness. If you open the book of Exodus, chapter 10, the text describes it very briefly. God allowed a kind of darkness that could be felt to cover all of Egypt. That darkness was so thick that for 3 days the Egyptians could not see one another, and no one dared to move from his place, while the Israelites still had light. That is all. The official biblical text says only that much. But Wisdom, chapter 17, does something unprecedented. It does not stand outside the event and look at it. It goes straight inside the minds of those being punished. The author takes that real event and turns it into a neuropsychological analysis thousands of years ahead of its time. Look at the U.S. Right at chapter 17, verse 11. This is the first time in the entire Greek Septuagint translation of the Bible that the word conscience appears. And how does he describe it? He says that when the wicked thought they were oppressing the holy people, they themselves were chained in darkness, lying helpless beneath the roofs of their own homes. He calls it a prison without bars. Just imagine it. Egypt at that moment was still intact. The massive palaces were still there. The city walls were still solid. The army armed to the teeth still stood in place. But for 3 days, every splendid house became a solitary cell. Every bedroom became a courtroom. No shackles were needed. No prison guards were needed. God simply turned off the lights and allowed the Egyptians to face the most terrifying monster they had always tried to avoid their own conscience. The author describes that scene through a series of chilling images, like a psychological horror film. The Egyptians once thought that the bloody crimes they had committed in the dark had been forgotten. But when the sunlight, the very thing they had always worshipped, suddenly vanished, those sins began to rise again. They were distracted by ghostly images. Every sound was magnified by the brain into a threat. The sound of the wind, the cry of a bird, the flow of water, or the fall of a stone, all of it joined together, tearing through the silence and pushing them into extreme panic. The Good News translation describes in verses 15 and 16 that they were chased by terrifying shapes, lying helpless, falling down, and being locked in the chains of their own fear. And what is the most fascinating part? The book exposes the pitiful state of the Egyptian elite and magicians. Before this, these magicians had been arrogant, using tricks to imitate the signs of Moses. But wisdom, chapter 17, verse 7, states clearly, when the darkness came down, all their boasting about wisdom and their magical arts immediately collapsed in shame. Those who once claimed to connect with the gods, those elite priests who believed they could control the universe, were now trapped inside their own rooms, trembling and weeping because of a few sounds in the night. When God withdraws the light, every proud system of human knowledge becomes useless. At this point, your mind may immediately connect this with medical concepts such as sleep paralysis, sensory deprivation, or the psychological torture method known as white torture. But wisdom does not write this as a medical handbook. It is pointing to a brutal and perfectly just law of cause and effect established by the Creator. Egypt once imprisoned Israel in forced labor. Now Egypt was imprisoned inside its own mind. They once created physical chains to oppress others. Now they had to taste invisible chains tightening around the soul. God did not need thunder, and He did not need fire from heaven to punish them. He only needed to leave them alone with the sentence screaming inside them. And this is where chapter 17 places a life or death question before all of us today. We are living in an extremely noisy age. We constantly fill our emptiness with work, with drinking parties, with mobile phones, and with frantic scrolling on social media. We are very skilled at building a glamorous image online, using achievements and status to cover the hidden corners within. But you cannot run forever. There will always come a moment when every outside noise is forced to grow quiet. There will be long nights when you are left alone in an empty room. And when that silence comes down, the core questions will rise. How have you lived? Whom did you trample in order to climb to your current position? What did you trade away from your family in order to gain this career? How many times have you betrayed your conscience? The wisdom of Solomon warns us with a cold truth. Human beings may use money and power to escape every physical prison in this world. But if you carry within yourself a conscience loaded with sin, then even if you lie on the most expensive mattress in the most luxurious mansion, your mind will still turn that place into a dark, solitary cell. Only when you dare to face the truth, confess the hidden corners of your life, and return to the Creator, will the light truly be turned on and the door of that prison without bars finally be thrown wide open. The universe operates according to the command of God. After describing the darkness of Egypt as a punishment that struck directly at the conscience, the wisdom of Solomon continues to expand the story of the Exodus in a very special direction. The author looks back at the plagues of Egypt the manna in the wilderness, the Red Sea, water, fire, ice, hail, and the creatures of nature, and then reaches a bold conclusion. All creation is under the command of God. In Exodus, the plagues are told as mighty acts of God to free Israel from Egypt. But in Wisdom, chapter 16 and chapter 19, the author goes deeper into the way created things respond to his command. Fire, water, ice, snow, hail, the sea. The earth and living creatures seem to change the way they operate depending on the purpose of judgment or salvation. This point makes the Wisdom of Solomon very different from a simple historical account. It becomes a theological reflection on the universe. The material world has order, and that order submits to the Creator. Wisdom. Chapter 16 describes the plagues by contrasting the fate of Egypt and Israel. The Egyptians were punished through strange water, hail, and fire. Israel, by contrast, was fed with manna bread from heaven, described as the food of angels, suited to the need of the one who ate it. In Wisdom, chapter 16, verse 22, the author writes that snow and ice withstood fire without melting, so that the Egyptians would know their crops were destroyed by fire burning within the hail. The NRSVUE on Bible Gateway states clearly snow and ice withstood fire without melting, meaning snow and ice stood firm in fire without melting. That sounds strange, does it not? Ice meets fire and it melts. Snow meets heat and it dissolves. But in Wisdom's telling, hail and fire appear together in one act of judgment. The author is developing the plague of hail in Exodus chapter 9, where hail and fire came down upon Egypt, destroying people, animals, and the crops in the field. Wisdom sees in that event a sign. The elements of nature can cooperate beyond the way human beings normally observe them, because they are serving the command of God. Immediately after that, the author gives an even deeper point. Wisdom chapter 16, verse 17, says that in water, which usually extinguishes everything, fire had even greater power, because the world fighteth for the righteous, according to the DECAY Rhymes version. This verse shows that the author understands creation as a system serving the justice of God. When the righteous need protection, creation protects them. When the wicked need judgment, creation becomes the instrument of judgment. At this point, if you are a person of the 21st century and you hear what happens near the end of this book, your mind will immediately jump to some of the most modern concepts in physics. Simulation theory, quantum mechanics, or the idea that matter can change its state with only one line of code. But remember, the Wisdom of Solomon is not a science fiction book. The author in Alexandria was not trying to draw a physics model. He was throwing a fierce theological declaration directly into humanity's face. Matter in this universe has no independent power. You do not believe it. Look at the way the author contrasts Egypt and Israel in chapter 16. The same natural world, the same sky, the same geographical space. But for the Egyptians who stood against God, fire came pounding down from heaven and rolled inside the hail to burn up their crops. Meanwhile, for Israel, the sky dropped down manna, what verses 20 and 21 call the food of angels, a kind of bread from heaven that could automatically transform itself to suit every taste, like a gentle sweetness from God toward his children. The same physical system, yet the wicked encounter a death sentence, while the righteous encounter a feast. And in chapter 19, this astonishing idea reaches its peak. After witnessing the Red Sea divide to save Israel, and then crash down to crush the Egyptian army, the author concludes with a sentence in Wisdom, chapter 19, verse 18, that can send chills through anyone who reads it. He writes this: "For the elements were changed in themselves by a kind of harmony. Like as in a psaltery, notes change the name of the tune, and yet are always sounds." The specialized translation notes from TIPS explain this sentence in a very easy to understand way. Imagine this universe as a harp. Each string keeps its own distinct sound. Fire is fire, water is water. But when God, the great musician, changes the way he plays these elements, immediately joined together, to create new melodies or entirely new physical laws in order to serve the event of the Exodus. Right after verse 18, the author lists a series of things that we today might call glitches in the Matrix. In verse 19, he describes land creatures suddenly swimming in water, and water creatures walking on dry land. In verse 20, fire keeps its terrifying heat even when submerged in water, while water seems to forget its ability to extinguish fire. In verse 21, the fierce flame becomes powerless, unable to burn the flesh of the most delicate creatures. And the manna from heaven, a bread that could withstand the heat of cooking, melts immediately under only a gentle ray of morning sunlight. This entire series of physics-bending events is preserved in full on Bible Gateway. If we look more broadly from the perspective of historical analysis, a respected study on the Exodus tradition on the Scalo platform points out the subtlety of the author from chapter 16 to chapter 19. He continuously plays with symmetry. Fire and hail that destroy stand opposite the manna that nourishes. Darkness, imprisoning the Egyptians, stands opposite the stream of light, opening the way for Israel. The water of the Red Sea becomes the climax of liberation, and at the same time, the grave of arrogance. So why do these chapters attract so much attention? Because they shatter our fixed way of thinking. People today are used to thinking that matter operates according to dead laws or fixed laws. Water must extinguish fire. Fire must melt ice. Land creatures cannot swim. We call that the laws of physics. But the wisdom of Solomon is telling you this. The things you call laws are actually a set of rules written by the Creator. And the one who wrote the operating system has the full right to override it whenever he wills. Many people will quickly connect this to simulation theory, where a programmer intervenes in lines of code. But be careful. The author of Wisdom is not talking about a lifeless computer. He is talking about the absolute sovereignty of God over a living universe. This universe does not decide on its own who lives and who dies, but it is always in a state of standby, ready to bend even its most basic rules in order to serve the justice of God. Through this, the book exposes the ultimate irony against the wicked. What had the Egyptians once done? They worshipped the natural world. They bowed before the Nile. They offered sacrifices to the sun god. They worshipped animals and the powers of the sky. And how did God answer them? You worship the Nile. I will use the very water of the Nile as a plague. You honor the sky. The sky will pour down hail and fire to burn your nation to the ground. You take pride in the strength of your undefeated army by the sea. The sea will open to save your slaves and then close back in to crush your war machine. The author of Wisdom uses the very transformation of matter to strike a thunderous blow against Egyptian civilization. Nature is not God. Nature is only a tool in the hand of the God of Israel. But do not forget, the transformation of the universe is not only used to create shocking displays of power, it changes in order to teach human beings. Why was manna the food of angels designed to melt as soon as the sun rose? The answer lies in Wisdom, chapter 16, verse 28. And the TIPS system compares it with Exodus, chapter 16, verse 21. The author makes it clear that physical phenomenon happened in order to teach human beings a spiritual discipline. You must wake before dawn. You must seek and thank God before the sunlight appears. Fire in the hail teaches the wicked to fear. Manna melting in the sunlight teaches the righteous to be humble. And that is exactly why chapter 16 and chapter 19 form the perfect and most powerful ending to the entire book. This book affirms that matter and morality are one unified whole under the authority of the Creator. What you do before Him will create physical consequences in the real world. When an arrogant empire tramples the innocent earth, water, fire, and sky can all receive the command to become executioners. And when an oppressed righteous person cries out in despair, the entire cosmos can bend its physical laws just to open a path of life. God does not save you only with empty promises written on paper. He uses the very structure of space and time to protect you. And as the book closes, it leaves open a question that has echoed across 2 millennia. If this entire vast universe, from the flame to the block of ice to the depths of the ocean, knows how to bow in obedience before the Creator, then, human being, where do you stand before Him? Together, we have just walked through one of the most forbidden, most controversial, and yet most powerfully awakening books of the ancient world. From the mysterious presence of Sophia to the terrifying fragments of memory about the age of the Nephilim giants, to the bloody indictment against elite secret societies, and finally, to a living universe ready to bend every law of physics in order to carry out the justice of God. Have you ever wondered why a book carrying such tremendous weight is so often pushed to the margins? Why do traditional sermons so rarely dare to dig into these hidden corners? Because the truth brought by the wisdom of Solomon is too sharp. It does not fit neatly into safe 20-minute Sunday morning sermons. It shatters mankind's illusion of power. It strips away the hypocritical mask of elite structures. And most importantly, it affirms this formal religion will not save you. The only thing that can save you is a clean soul and absolute humility before the Creator. True wisdom is not found in how many degrees you hold or how much money you control inside this system. Wisdom is knowing where you stand in a universe where even fire, water, and ice must bow in obedience. Before this video closes, I truly want to hear directly from you. Among all the mysteries we decoded together today, from the illusion of death to the psychological attack inside the prison without bars to the truth about secret societies, which detail shook your mind the most? Scroll down to the comment section right now and let me know what you think. I always read your comments, and I learn so much from the perspectives of our community. And this journey into buried truths will not stop here. There is still an entire treasure house of ancient texts, forgotten prophecies, and historical mysteries waiting for us to uncover in the next episodes. If you are someone who longs to seek the truth, and you want to learn more about forbidden books that are filled with truths about God, then press the subscribe button and turn on the notification bell right now so you will not miss any file. Do not forget to leave a like if this video brought value to you, and share it with anyone you believe may need this wisdom. Thank you for giving your precious time to walk with me until these final seconds. Keep your mind open, live with kindness, and never stop seeking the light. I will see you again in the next videos.